Oh man, what a beautiful morning already. Light's just starting to kind of come up a little bit. It's just absolutely gorgeous down here on this river. Wasn't our plan to camp here again, but I'm not complaining because it's just a beautiful, absolutely stunning spot. But today we're gonna get to that ranch. Donald's already been there. He didn't quite realize that that was the location that he thought the ranch I wanted to explore was actually further upriver, so he thought he had made a discovery on his own, but it actually was where we were headed all along. But the exciting part is, with Donald's exploration, he talked to a guy that's down here chucker hunting, and we might have found another way around the one location we couldn't get around when we were trying to get to Birch Ranch. So we may still be able to make this route work. We thought it just wasn't going to work, but now we've got a new possibility.
I don't know, like in the perfect Donald narration voice, right?
Donald and I talked over coffee, and we had some concerns about our current fuel supplies. We had used a lot more fuel than we had intended getting to this location because of all the backtracking that we had to do over the last couple of days. And since he had already been out to the ranch and checked it out, we decided it would be best for him to make the long trek back to town and refill all our fuel supplies while Shai and I continued on to the ranch. Alright, so Donald's going to run into town. He's going to track, it's going to be about 40 miles into the nearest town, and he's going to get us some more fuel. We've used quite a bit more since we've had a few backtracks, and my fuel supply is getting a little lean, and he's a little bit concerned about his. So I'm going to go ahead and fill what I've got now into the van so I can empty my giant loop, and then he's going to take it into town with his jerry cans and just kind of resupply us. All right, so since Donald also is going into town, we're using one of his jerry cans to just put as much fuel in my van as possible. So we already put 5 gallons in for my giant loop, but we're going to put the other 5 gallons of Donald's in, and then that way we should definitely be able to make it to our next fueling station. With the van all filled up and Donald on his way to town, Shai and I headed off to go explore the old ranch. Here's another example of where having a full-size vehicle can give you challenges on the trail. This road was fairly rocky, and these two rocks were really close together, making it a little bit of a tight squeeze to get the van through. It's definitely nice having all the extra carrying capacity and amenities in the van, but like I said, it does offer some challenges when you're out in the backcountry. John and I decided to take a quick detour and check out the water crossing that Donald had found the day before. We figured if we could get across it, then we'd know that we could move forward with the route that we had originally planned. Before we head to the ranch, there's another water crossing that will get us on the other side of the river and past where we got stopped in the first video a couple days back. So if we can use this water crossing to get past that obstacle, then we may be able to continue on with the route we originally had planned. So we got across that water crossing. It was a little deep in one spot, just for, I don't know, maybe about 6 feet or so, dipped us down in, and definitely got a little deep, but the rest of it was pretty much no worse than the other crossings we got. But the good news is, if you guys see where I'm standing, this is pretty much where me and Donald were standing in the first video when we had stopped, because this road basically turned into what you can see is pretty much nothing more than a quad trail. So now that we know we can go to the other side, cross the river, go to the other side, get around this, cross the river back, now we can continue on and see if we can make it the rest of the way down the route we were trying to do in the first video. Now, we're not going to do that today. That's actually going to be what we're going to do tomorrow, but we now verify we can cross the river, so we don't have to worry about that tonight. We're going to go on now and go the rest of the way to the Hattie Harrell Ranch and check that out and just kind of have a relaxing afternoon spending our time around there. All right, so we're at the Hattie Harrell Ranch. This is a historic monument, and there is some information here on the side of the house letting you know that this is a historic landmark. There is some information about the place and the name and everything, but I was able to do some digging online, and I found the blog, which I'll link down below if you guys want to read more or find out more detail. But this place was originally homesteaded by Barney Harrell back in 1914. And his wife Hattie. They lived here until about 1918, and then they left, and then Hattie returned back in 1920. There's some uncertainty, I guess, on when Barney passed away, but Hattie returned with her 2 children back in 1920, and they worked it until 1927 when the BLM reclaimed the ranch, or rebought the ranch for $3,600 so that they could start doing the Owyhee Reservoir. Kind of a cool place, and if you get out here, it definitely is pretty rocky, like I said before, coming out. But it's beautiful. There's lots of, just beautiful deciduous trees, and right now they're just starting to change color a little bit. And yeah, it's really nice to go walk around. Further back, you can find a water wheel that they use, and I guess back when they returned in 1920, the water wheel was such a disrepair that they actually had to rebuild it, and they had to go all the way to Vail, which, for those that are familiar with this area, realize back with the transportation they had available then, it would have been quite an effort to get materials, but apparently they went all the way to Vail to get 4x4s, and then they actually built the wood or the metal buckets themselves here on site. Man, the amount of effort that would have to go into a place like this in as remote of area and hard to get to location as this is, just had to be a major feat. As it was right now, it sounded like from notes of Walter, who was one of the young children. He was interviewed when he was like, back in 1980, I believe he was interviewed, and he said that they only went to town like twice a year. Really hard life, I imagine, for these people, but it's beautiful location, a beautiful place. I imagine there was some amount of pride that was taken as they continued to work this place and lived here. As I wandered through the remains of this old homestead, my mind drifted to another time. You realize as you look about the place, sifting through the rubble, that there had to be far more to these folks' story than a few passing words written on a BLM sign. As I looked through the different artifacts, my imagination worked to put the story together. According to the information I found online, Hattie had returned to the ranch in 1920, and from what I read, it was assumed that her husband Barney had passed, though there doesn't seem to be a clear record of that. She resumed raising stock and farming with her 2 boys, who I am sure became men long before age would ever grant them that title. Working to scratch out a living in this beautiful but fiercely unforgiving land, I can only imagine the moments of success, defeat, laughter, and crying. I wonder what ran through her mind as she looked back at the ranch for the last time, with her $3,600 in hand. Was her thoughts filled with relief or sadness in leaving behind a place that I am sure still holds a part of her soul? That evening, Shai and I set up camp on the edge of what was once the ranch's old hayfield. With the Owyhee flowing by, we enjoyed the epic views surrounding us as we waited for Donald to return with the fuel we sorely needed to continue the next leg of our journey. That evening, we sat around Shai's propane fire pit, reluctant to use the wood I'd cut the day before because we felt it was still way too dry to safely have a wood fire. The night was comfortable, and the propane fire still provided the calming flicker of flame, which in turn provided the ambiance we needed to listen to Donald recount his story of the challenges he had faced getting to town and back. But you will have to wait for his upload for that story.